Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Sunday, November 1st, 2020. I'm Andrew Hansen alongside Shane Caldwell. Hope everyone had a great Halloween out there. Perhaps you're still celebrating here as we record this early on Sunday morning. And it's the Week 8 Primetime show. And Shane, before the season started, these matchups look pretty exciting. But, with the injuries and some moving parts here, we're looking at two potential blowouts on this primetime slate, but we've got some great DFS contests, so we're going to help everybody build what we hope to be winning lineups.
Yeah, I think the networks are like, hey, can I get a refund back? Because I thought this was going to be like Dak Prescott versus Carson Wentz, and I thought it was going to be Tom Brady versus Danny Dimes and Saquon Barkley. They're like, I need a refund now because I'm not sure about this lopsided matchup. Luckily, we have DFS, though, so it means we'll watch the entire game because we'll be rooting for our players to be in a smash spot here and win us lots of money. So we won't be shutting the game off like some people might because we're projecting some major blowout action going on here.
Yeah, and if you look at the lines, courtesy of our presenting sponsor, BetUS.com.pa, in the first one, Philadelphia, 11.5-point favorites. The over-under is 42.5. And then very similar in game two on Monday night, we've got Tampa Bay 13-point road favorites against the Giants with a total of 45. So like you said, looking like two potential blowouts. Not extremely high scoring, so we're going to really have to work to build these lineups. And game one, you talk about what was going to be an exciting matchup on paper, and at DFS Coach Talk, there's some extra excitement because the coach here, our fearless leader, Joe Sarvati, is a huge Cowboys fan, and our man Brett Trimble, who does a lot of our work behind the scenes, helps us post podcasts and all kinds of logistical stuff. He's a big Eagles fan. So those guys are going to be going at it here. And Shane, we got to break it down here and figure out which side's going to have the edge. Brett is feeling pretty good right now with these Eagles 11.5-point favorites on BetUS. So let's start to break this game down. And from a big picture, the problem with Dallas, of course, is the injuries at quarterback, as backup Andy Dalton is now out. So we're looking at Ben DiNucci. The positive thing here is that Dallas will have two linemen back, Zach Martin and Joe Looney. And then on the Philly side, a couple bright spots. They've been ravaged by injuries too. But Dallas Goddard will be back, as well as Jalen Reagor. So what are your thoughts on this matchup overall? Does Dallas have a chance, or is this going to be a very rough day for the coach?
Well, the only thing I like about Dallas, they got a couple of their offensive linemen back. They got Zach Martin, and it looks like Joe Looney back. So they're starting to get a couple guys back to maybe have a respectable offensive line to at least protect this, young quarterback. The quarterback, DiNucci, sounds like he would be more of a cook at an Italian restaurant or a restaurant owner than a football player here. So I don't know about this DiNucci guy here. I'm a little skeptical on that. Philly can heat you up in the pass rush a little bit. So it just looks like a blatant mismatch. Obviously, it's kind of rough what's happened to Dallas this year. And Philly is they're starting to heat up and get hot. They're looking like the favorites in this division in a pretty tough, in a pretty ugly division.
At 2-4-1.
Yeah, 2-4-1. They're the smoking hot team right here. And, they're getting healthy at the right time. Wentz is looking better, and they're getting some of their talented targets back. And, they got guys that are coming out of nowhere, like Travis Folcom is looking like a Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver all of a sudden. So, and then Miles Sanders is going to come back in a few weeks, and he's looked good when he's in there. So Philly's set up for a nice run here, actually, considering where they're at. So this is a lopsided game. The only question is, how many Philly players will Fanduel and Draftkings allow you to play here? Is there a limit on how many I can play? Because that's my only concern here is if they cap me at a certain amount of players, I might have to be scrambling trying to figure it out, get a couple Tampa Bay guys in there. So, yeah, so I think let's start with the Dallas side here. You can take a look at Ezekiel Elliott. If your lineup construction warranties it, he's probably the best guy to look at from Dallas just because he's going to get volume. I don't know how efficient the volume is, but I can see them setting up some screen plays and design plays for him. If you get Elliott in space, they got a couple of the offensive linemen back. he could have a decent game here. It's a tough matchup against Philly, but Elliott, he's still a talented running back here, and he's going to get a ton of volume. If Dallas is going to move the ball, that's going to be the way they're going to do it. Mixing up the run and the pass here. But so I think Elliott, you can take a look at him because there's only so many running backs on this slate, and he's obviously the most talented running back. He's just not in a great matchup. The Dallas passing attack doesn't look great because obviously they have this, third string quarterback, and, Philly can put Darius Slay on Amari Cooper, and Amari Cooper doesn't do that well when he's shadowed by a top-notch cover corner. So I think Cooper will get a little bit, but I don't think he's worth paying up for here. You can get, cheap wide receivers like, CeeDee Lamb or Michael Gallup. You see when Michael Gallup is super cheap at like $3,400 on DraftKings. So that was one that price that stood out to both of us when we were having our pregame huddle here. But it's still, do you trust Michael Gallup here? You don't know if DiNucci's going to be able to hit him on those deep shots, but I could see him trying to take some deep shots. So that's pretty much what I'm looking at for the Dallas. It's pretty short in terms of description of the amount of Dallas players I'm looking at here.
Yeah, I think the big question is, do you play Zeke or not? Because with injuries here to a lot of the key players, there's plenty of salary to go around. I mean, you can basically play whoever you want. And it is a good matchup. The way to attack Philly is on the ground. They are below average there. But, of course, there have been the offensive line issues with Dallas in terms of the injuries. So that's going to be the big question for me on this slate. The first lineup I built, I faded Zeke. I had plenty of money left over. I could have afforded him. But I will have some lineups where I leave a lot of money on the table in the primetime slate, the 2-game slate on DraftKings. But I agree. If Dallas is going to have any chance of keeping this close, they got to find a way to get Zeke back on track after that absolute dud in that embarrassing loss to Washington. Coach, you're just going to have to hide your ears here and just cover them and maybe not listen to this podcast because we're just calling it like it is. It's a real tough spot here for Dallas. So we'll see if they can rebound. But Lamb would be the best target from my perspective in terms of the matchup, the price. Some slot receivers have done well against Philly, Cooper Kupp, Boyd. So you could go there. I agree. Gallup is an extremely low price on DraftKings. I mean, who would have ever thought early in the season he'd be 3.4 on a slate like this on DraftKings? Another guy who's 3.4 for Dallas is Schultz, the tight end, Dalton Schultz. That's another decent matchup on paper. George Kittle absolutely destroyed Philly from the tight end position. And then we saw Ingram last week have a great game. And if he'd caught that last one, the Giants would have won the game. So you could look for DiNucci to try to get some confidence going with Schultz. But yeah, I'm looking more at these Philly guys. And so it is a matter of how many can we get, which ones do we want. So let's go there. Which guys on Philly are you targeting?
Yeah, I mean, you could pretty much lock in Carson Wentz. I know that the Monday night game's looking good with Brady, but Carson Wentz I like how he gets rushing yards, and he's looked really good in the passing game. He throws a great deep ball. He's been hitting these guys underneath, and he's getting some of his, talented weapons back that we'll talk about here. So Carson Wentz, obviously Dallas has been one of the worst graded coverage teams in the league, really bad against the pass. They're not really getting pressure on the quarterback. It's just a bad recipe, so it's a great matchup for Wentz here, and Wentz happens to be ascending as a player right now. So you like Carson Wentz here. Boston Scott is in a good position as well. Dallas is also weak against the run. Philadelphia has a 23% run blocking advantage against Dallas's defensive front. So there should be some space for Boston Scott to run. And I love the work he does in the passing game. Obviously, most people probably saw that catch he had, beautiful pass and catch for the touchdown. For a guy that small to get up and grab that ball out of the air like that was pretty impressive. He really took it. It was pretty good coverage, actually. So Boston Scott can run those routes, and the guy is just super fast and elusive. So kind of like him here as well. Obviously, there's only so many running backs go around. He's probably in the best spot here, especially at a reasonably priced. And then I think you really have to lock in Travis Folcom here. Travis Folcom is like a superstar that came out of nowhere for the Eagles. And he had some pretty tough matchups, last few weeks here, going against, Pittsburgh Steelers and some other teams are making it pretty tough on him, some tough cover corners. But now he gets the Dallas secondary. probably going up against the rookie Diggs, and it's a big mismatch. And Folcom, it's been hard for even really good corners to cover him and shut him down. So I look for Folcom to have a blow-up game here, and he's way too cheap in the $6,000 range on both Fanduel and Draftkings. It seems like they would have priced him up to me. So that's just an egregious error, way too low of a price for Folcom for a stud wide receiver here. Obviously, he's not a household name, but he's about to be after this game. I can tell you that. If people don't know, they're about to find out really quick here. And then here's a couple under the radar guys, because you're going to have to take a few under the radar guys to create an advantage from the high scoring teams in that slate. So for Philly, you can look at Dallas Goddard. Because he's coming back from injury, people might be a little nervous about it, but Zach Ertz is out. It's pretty much Dallas Goddard. I'm not worried about the other tight end or Richard Rodgers over there. So Dallas Goddard is an absolute stud. So there's question of whether he's healthy or not. Is he going to be a full go and limited? Even if he's just playing halftime, I'll take him because he's a big target over in the middle. No one can really cover him from Dallas. And, Dallas Goddard's about to have a big game against Dallas here. So it's kind of coincidence that his first name is Dallas here. So he's in a smash spot. He's a little bit cheaper than Gronk, who we'll talk about here. That's going to be probably much higher owned. People are worried about Goddard. I would fire him up. And then the other guy that's coming back from injury that I would fire up, who I think is going to have a huge role, they drafted this guy for this specific position here, is Jalen Reagor. And Jalen Reagor is really cheap as well. And I think he's going to be the guy that's taking those deep shots instead of John Hightower that we talked about last week. And Jalen Reagor is going to hit underneath routes too, and he's a run after the catch guy. He's an explosive athlete, and he'll have a big role in this passing game as well. And people may be nervous about him coming back from an injury. So you can probably get a little lower ownership on Jalen Reagor here as well. So yeah, it's, you can definitely play like, 4 or 5 Philly guys and you should be in an absolute smash spot here. So it's looking good for Philly.
Yeah, I agree with you. All those guys. I want to add on Carson Wentz, the detail there with the rushing yardage and scores recently. The last 2 games, he's been over 30 fantasy points on DraftKings with 3 touchdowns in both games, 2 passing and 1 on the ground. So he really is being more aggressive there, and that really helps that floor. As well as the ceiling. So Wentz really trending in the right direction in a great matchup. In terms of those targets, I'm with you on Folcom, Reagor, Goddard, and you could even look at Greg Ward. Guys in the slot have been very productive against Dallas this year. He's very cheap. So he'll be in some lineups for me. And then along with Boston Scott, who I agree is in an awesome spot, Dallas number 32 against the run this year, that's dead last, is you could look at Corey Clement. And I think you could play both of these guys. I could easily see them both getting in the end zone. Now, last game, Boston Scott really stepped up. He got the majority of the touches. He had 12 carries and 3 receptions. Clement wasn't out there much, but that could change here. And that's a way to get a little bit different on a 2-game slate. So keep that possibility in mind. And then, of course, the Philly defense is in play, 3,900. They're a little bit cheaper than the Tampa defense. And I'm guessing those are the 2 defenses most people are going to be choosing between.
Yeah, you just got to choose the right one. I like Philly slightly. They're a little bit cheaper, and they're at home. So I'll take them against Dallas because, obviously, it's hard to trust Danny Dimes for the Giants, but really, can you really trust DiNucci for Dallas? And he's going to be up against immense pressure here from the Philadelphia pass rush. I really like their pass rush. So.
Absolutely. All right. Well, before we get to game 2, let's hear from our partners at BetUS.com.pa.
Wake up, sports bettors. Sports are in high gear at BetUS.com, so put down the beer and make every sporting event more exciting by putting stakes on the line at BetUS. Earn bragging rights over your friends as you rake in the cash from each week's betting action. But don't settle for any other book. Choose America's favorite sports book with over 25 trusted years in the industry, BetUS. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity, but more importantly, you need a sports book that pays. BetUS has your game with action on football, baseball, basketball, MMA, golf, horse racing, and even esports. No other sportsbook welcomes newcomers like BetUS with their jaw-dropping sign-up bonuses. Sign up now with promo code CoachTalk for 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000. The best in the biz. Now you have the best book in the business with the best DFS provider in the business, Coach Talk. Create your account to make point spread bets, futures bets, prop bets, entertainment bets, live bets, and more. No other sportsbook is as committed to their members as BetUS. Sign up now and get in on the winning side of the ball.
Welcome back, and thank you to BetUS.com.pa for that wonderful offer for our listeners. You don't have to be a member at DFS Coach Talk to take advantage of that. So use that promo code Coach Talk, all one word, when you make your first deposit at BetUS.com.pa. All right, Shane, game 2 here on the primetime slate is, of course, Tampa against the Giants. And that line again, Tampa 13-point favorites, over under 45. Kickoff at 8:15 Eastern. And the injury news here for Tampa, Godwin is out with the broken finger. Antonio Brown is not yet ready to suit up. So that changes things there for the skill position players for Tampa. And on the Giants side, Devontae Freeman is out. So it's a Gallman night if you want to get crazy and try to attack that number one rush defense for Tampa, which I do not want to do. But tell me how you think this one's going to play out. Are we looking at another blowout here?
Yeah, I mean, people thought Tom Brady was slumping a little bit, and he went out to Vegas. He kind of hit the jackpot out there, I think, because he had 369 yards, 4 touchdowns. He completely lit them up, put on a clinic, for passing out there. And the Giants are a similar type matchup here. Pretty bad in pass coverage, average, not great, pass rush here. The Giants are probably a little bit more respectable against the run. So this is setting up as kind of a pass funnel game. Tampa Bay is really good at running the ball, so they'll still run the ball, but I could see Tom Brady getting good volume here as well, again, in another blowout, lopsided game. So Tom Brady's definitely in play here. Tampa Bay offensive line, great at pass protecting, which is important for Tom Brady because he's great at navigating the pocket, but he's definitely not mobile. The Tampa Bay offensive line has a 38% pass blocking advantage for Tom Brady against the New York Giants. So he's going to have plenty of time. Not as big on Mike Evans here because I think, it should be James Bradberry, of course. So another kind of shadow coverage situation. Mike Evans has been kind of up and down. He's usually pretty good when Godwin's out. So he's talented enough to beat Bradberry, but Bradberry's been impressive this year. So I don't know that I'll be targeting Mike Evans, but Scotty Miller is kind of looking in a really good spot. He's going to have a much better matchup. And Scotty Miller is really cheap, and he's coming off a huge game against the Raiders last week. So he looks really good. Hopefully he's not going to have one of those letdown games because sometimes he has a monster game and lets you down. But Scotty Miller's looking like a great play here because you probably can't play all the Philly receivers if you're playing the 2-game slate. So definitely like Scotty Miller. You can definitely take a look at Gronk. You can go back to Gronk here. He's looking really good. He's 5,600 on Fanduel and Draftkings in the primetime slate. And then the running backs, Ronald Jones is kind of the early down guy. He's looked great in rushing situations. So if you think they're going to get up big, Ronald Jones could have a big second half just running the ball. But they really like Fournette. He's great at catching the ball. They call him their, satellite back, their nickel back, where he's going to catch the ball and get runs. And he looks great as well. So if you think they're going to be in a little more of a hurry up, but they're not going to be playing from behind or anything like that or having to do the hurry up. So Fournette may only get so much volume. So it's pretty much a split backfield there. So I guess you probably lean more towards Fournette on DraftKings, being that he's cheaper in price and it's a PPR site, where you could maybe make the argument for Ronald Jones if you think he's going to get a lot of rushes in the second half. He's certainly been productive on the ground, but the Giants are respectable against the rush here. So it's just another game where it's lopsided because I'm not looking at a lot of New York Giants guys because the Tampa Bay defense is just shuts you down in so many different ways. In pass, in terms of pass coverage, wide receiver coverage, They cover tight ends good, and they shut down the run completely. So there's not a lot of good places to look at the Giants unless you just want to be really contrarian because you're building multiple lineups here. So I'll be stacking, obviously, Tampa Bay. It's about choosing the right guys and pairing them up with the Philly guys. And that's pretty much how everyone's going to do it, I would imagine, in this slate. So you got to really pick the right guys. You can't have any duds, and you got to try to find a couple guys that are a little bit lower owned.
Yeah, and I'll follow up your thoughts on Tampa. I support the Brady play as well. My favorite way to attack the Giants here is through the air. I'll pair him up with Scotty Miller. I like his matchup a lot better than Evans, like you said. And Miller, nice rapport there. Big week last week against Vegas with Godwin and Brown out. You could look at Gronk. Fournette gets the slight edge. I'm with you there. Last week he had 6 catches for 47 yards. And they did rely on Jones really to run it. It was kind of a split backfield in terms of touches, but if Fournette's going to get those catches, then I agree. On DraftKings, he gets the nod for me. On the Giants side, how about that run from Daniel Jones last week?
Oh my
80 yards, and
he
just
Man,
stumbled in the open field.
He was really hauling ass there, but he was going so fast that somehow the rest of his body got through. It looks like someone sniped him or something. I saw the thing on Instagram where they had Bradley Cooper set up as the American sniper, and they would just go back and forth, and Bradley Cooper would take his kill shot right at the same time that Daniel Jones was falling, which is really ironic because Bradley Cooper's a Philly fan. So
yes.
So I just thought that was absolutely hilarious there. That was crazy.
That was an unbelievable run. I mean, it was so memorable that I was at the gas station today, and this woman started talking to me out of the blue about football. And wow. She started talking to me about that play. She must have been 65, 70 years old. And she just started talking my ear off about football and that play specifically. So,
well, we did. I think we jinxed Daniel Jones because we talked about on our Showdown podcast how great he looked running the ball.
Yes.
And then he did look good for about 40 yards until it looked like looked like he was going to cardiac arrest or something there. Yeah. I don't know what happened. You could see the facial expression too, where something went wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, again, with GPPs here, that's the only reason you want to play Daniel Jones. I don't want to have anything to do with these running backs because Tampa is number 1 against the run. So, if you really have to know, I'll tell you that Gallman's price on DraftKings is $4,600, and he looked good as he stepped up last game. But I don't think he's going to be able to run against that front. It's only if he were to catch some passes. So I think if you're going to go with somebody from the Giants, you look at somebody like Slayton and you hope for a deep ball, or you go with Ingram. Tight ends. It's one way to get after Tampa a little bit. Waller had a good week last week, but yeah, not expecting too much from the Giants. So the Tampa defense is in play for me. And what we're going to do here is, if you're new to the show, we are going to finalize lineups for all these slates with these primetime games. Obviously, on this show, we've been focusing a little bit more on the 2-game slate to give you a nice overview of all 4 teams here. But at DFS Coach Talk, what we do is we give out lineups for each of the slates. So on Fanduel, we will give out a full lineup for the 2-game primetime slate, a cash lineup and a GPP lineup. And then we're going to do the same thing for each of the showdown slates. So for the Sunday night game, we'll do the same thing on FanDuel, cash lineup and a GPP lineup. Same thing for Monday night on FanDuel. And then on DraftKings, we'll give a core 4 for the showdowns and a core 6 for the primetime slate. So you can start to build your lineup. And that's how we do it. So if you want those lineups, go to dfscoachtalk.com and get a weekly membership or monthly. And what we do is we invite you into our Discord, and then we give out those lineups about 45 minutes before kickoff. So plenty of time here on Sunday to jump in with us. And if you jump in before 1 p.m. Eastern, you can get our main slate lineups as well. So Shane, why don't you tell folks a little bit about social media and what we hope that they will do for us on YouTube?
Yeah, definitely subscribe on YouTube. We have a lot of people that view it, but they forget to subscribe. We're going to be providing all kinds of good position videos each week and all kinds of different primetime slate breakdowns, and we get really in depth with it. So definitely subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe to us on the Pod Center as well. So we're definitely trying to get more exposure. We're providing good information, get more subscribers out there. So we appreciate the support on that side. Definitely check us out on Instagram. We post all our big wins on there on Instagram that is DFS_coach talk on Instagram. And you can see all the huge wins, highlights of all the big wins we've had on all the different sports we do. So you can really see, and it's cool. We've started posting a lot of our members wins there too, which we had a ton of them, especially last week in the NFL. So it's a lot of exciting stuff there. I'm on Twitter and also Instagram at DET Sports Shane. So definitely check that out. So I'm the go-to guy for Detroit sports here.
Yes, no doubt about it.
Because that's all I talk about, right?
That's right. I'm available on Twitter at Language Olympic. Would love to interact with you. And then our fearless leader, the Cowboys fan, the coach, is available at JOESARVADI. And you can find all of us at DFS Coach Talk. Charity of choice here at DFS Coach Talk is Mamba on 3. That's MAMBAONTHREE.org, mambaon3.org. I want to thank our presenting sponsor one more time, BetUS.com.pa. Thank you so much. Wonderful partnership. Go there for your sports wagering and casino action. Use that promo code Coach Talk. And like Shane said, hit that alarm bell on YouTube so you can be notified of our upcoming podcasts. We'll be back with you here in the NFL on Wednesday night with a preview of the Thursday night primetime game, and then on Thursday with our first preview of the Week 9 main slate. But we got a lot of work to do here with Week 8 still, so jump in with us. We can share our lineups with you, dfscoachtalk.com for that membership. And we're going to get after it here on Sunday. Cannot wait. So thank you for tuning in. On behalf of Shane Caldwell and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen, and we hope to see you next time as we look to crush it in DFS.